I suppose this is where I could make a great Scott Marty joke of some sort, but no, I'm not gonna. Welcome to Rotted, review of the day, and today we're going to be taking a spoiler-free look at the 2016 movie I Am Not a Serial Killer, starring Christopher Lloyd and Max Records. This is a movie I've been wanting to watch ever since I saw the poster art, and for some reason it's just taken me a while to get around to it. The concept kind of appealed to me. The fact that it had Christopher Lloyd honestly really appealed to me. And usually, I know I've mentioned this before in my review of 13 Sins, which had Ron Perlman in it. But I'm a sucker for movies where the sixth name on the casting bill list is a moderately known actor, and the rest of it is unknowns. Because you can just kind of tell that they had no budget and they managed to score, hey, while this guy's in town doing a book signing, we can snag him and, shoot for a day. And there's a cheesy quality to that I love. And usually it's pretty much the actor's only in there for 5 minutes or so. But this has Christopher Lloyd in it as a principal actor. And I also really like the idea of a comedic actor showing dramatic chops. And I think it works to a really great effect. I know Joss Whedon really likes to use that element in his movies and in his shows. And I do think it works really well. I think that if you are able to pull off the necessary timing and vulnerability that comedy requires, that you're not inherently going to be good at drama, but the dramatic roles that you present yourself with more often than not have a really strong impact. And we saw that with a lot of Robin Williams dramatic roles. And it's something that I really want to watch, the new Puppet Master, The Littlest Reich, I think it's called. But the problem with that is I made a promise to myself that I would only do reviews if I've seen the originals first. And the Puppet Master series has 12 movies preceding that one. But that has Thomas Lennon in it, who I also love as a comedic actor, and I'm really interested to see how he does in that. I gotta watch 12 movies and make 12 reviews before that in order to keep my promise. We'll see if I do or not. Moving on. Let's jump right into this one so that we can go over the plot, which is our first category of 5, each category worth up to 20 points for a total possible score of 100 points. And the plot of this one is a young man is basically a sociopath. He has been diagnosed and he's displaying all 3 markers that give him a 95% chance of being a serial killer. And he struggles with that. He has not killed, but he struggles with the impulse. It's not something that we've haven't seen before. Obviously, the show Dexter had that as a major theme when he was younger, where his dad got him to channel it. In this case, the main character is trying to suppress it, and he has a list of rules that he gives himself that allows him to socially interact with people, even antagonists and bullies, that allow him to not react on his natural instincts. And it's a small town environment, and lo and behold, a series of serial murder killings start. And he has this fascination with it, and fascination of finding out who it is and what their methodology is. It doesn't help or hurt, depending on your point of view, that the main character helps out in a embalming studio, so he gets to see the aftermath of the corpses after the serial killer has been done with them, and they get processed by the police. And so his fascination with this is not helping his desire to suppress his natural instinct. It's fueling the fire that he's wanting to douse. I want to get into a lot more of this in the deep dive spoiler-filled discussion. I really don't think I'm going to go any further than that in terms of plot or description of it. Suffice it to say that Christopher Lloyd plays a pretty big part in this, and not exactly what you might be thinking. And it really takes a left turn that I wound up liking, even if it didn't. I have to apologize. I use this term. I really am not expecting while making this channel, making these videos, to constantly be using the same terms, but in this one it takes a major tonal shift that I didn't see coming, that I'm struggling with whether or not it worked. It didn't not work. I don't think it necessarily worked to the betterment of the movie, but it also didn't distract to the detriment of it. That's the best I can really say on it. Obviously, I'll be getting into that with the deep dive accompaniment video. I gave the plot the 16 out of 20. I really did enjoy it. I liked the characters. I liked the writing. I liked the dialogue. I liked the way that the plot progressed, and I ultimately did like where it wound up. It wasn't a black and white thing. It had a lot of gray areas to it as far as what the characters were going through and how their relationships work together. So I thought that was pretty solid. The Intent, this is an adaptation from what I'm reading, and I've never read the books, but this is an adaptation from a series of, I don't know if juvenile is the right word, but certainly young adult. I mean, the protagonist is in his late teens. He's still in high school, and if I'm thinking about it in terms of a series of books, usually the protagonist will match the age group of the intended target reader. And that being said, nothing about it felt juvenile. It felt very adult. It felt handled like an adult series, well, an adult movie at the very least, and it didn't really hold back, and I really did appreciate that. It dealt with very adult themes, and it dealt with them in a responsible way. So, as far as an adaptation goes, to present a quality movie on the screen, I thought the intent was good, and the execution on that intent was good. So I gave that a 15 out of 20. The acting was superb. I love Christopher Lloyd in general, but his character in this was so good in how multi-layered he turned out to be, and how he was able to play very sick, very vulnerable, very weak, old, frail man, and at the same time, at the drop of a hat, become very menacing. And again, maybe not in the way that you might think if you haven't seen the movie yet. That's not necessarily a spoiler. You'd really have to watch it to find out. I really can't do it justice with the description, and I'm not going to ruin it for you. But and the main character of John Wayne Cleaver, which that's a good name for struggling serial killer, but the actor of Max Records did a fantastic job carrying this movie. He worked really well with Christopher Lloyd, but more than that, he worked well on his own. He worked well with all the other characters, and his character was believable. This is something that could have been overacted very badly, and it would have been really easy to have this concept be taken to a position of unbelievability, and he never did that. He always made it grounded, and he made it real, and I had to appreciate that. So 18 out of 20 for this. I really, really loved the performances in it all around. I don't think there was a bad one in the bunch. On the technical level, not a whole lot of effects to be seen. I gave it a 15 out of 20. Not a whole lot of effects, but the camera work I thought was decent. The lighting I thought was decent. The way that things were angled so that you're not sure if one character is looking directly at the point of view or not. Ultimately, I just thought that all the technical achievements of the camera work, the lighting work, the sound work, the score, everything worked together really well in a very cohesive fashion and delivered a quality narrative. So 15 out of 20 for that. The fear quotient, I think, is where it falls down. As interesting as I found this movie to be, as interesting as I found the characters to be, as just a really overall great movie that I really would recommend, I didn't think it was that scary. There was one jump scare, and I don't even know if it was supposed to be a jump scare, but it got me anyway. For the rest of it, it relies on suspense and tension, and it had that, but it wasn't ever, brought up to the nth degree where I was actually on the edge of my seat or actually in fear and that level of immersion with the characters. So I gave that a 5 out of 20. I really can't give it a whole lot higher than that. Great movie, just not terribly scary. And I do consider that to be a requirement for a horror movie of quality, so that is why it is a category in here. Even if a movie isn't necessarily trying to be scary, it's a horror film. I think it should have that element to it. So that brings us to the final score of 69 out of 100 points. Again, I really, really would recommend this. If you haven't seen it, if you're a fan of Christopher Lloyd's work, certainly I would recommend it. But ultimately, this is a movie that is worth a watch, and the ending will take you by surprise. I'm pretty sure that that's a guarantee. Whether or not you think it works, I don't know. I think it did. I just don't think it elevated the movie. Certainly not to the point where I thought like The Ritual did. And I'm going to get into that in the deep dive discussion. But there's really not a whole lot more to say as far as just the regular review here. I like this movie. I think you'll like it too. So next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.